My name's Karl. I'm from Boston in Lincolnshire. I suffered with long COVID start of November 2020. I'm still living the nightmare, you could say. And I'm just a normal man on the street who worked as a postman. I was fit and healthy, bit of a man's man, like beer, like betting, like sport. And now I'm not working, almost housebound. So that's how COVID's affected me. Right, totally life-changing. I've gone from going to work, having an active life, family, brilliant friends. Yeah, they're all still there. But I've had the scary days of sort of having to say goodbye to my family, thinking that I wasn't going to come out of hospital, going in hospital 3 or 4 times, not being able to walk some days, not being able to breathe, which is the scariest thing in the world. So it's a total life change from being what I'd call normal to being housebound. A non-active life now, sort of trying to adapt to the new life of not working, of not being able to do things for myself sometimes, of not being able to even walk or pick up the phone. You know, it's just a total life change. So that's how it's affected me. I could go into loads of details, but they're quite scary, and people who are watching this will hopefully, or hopefully not, have had the same symptoms, from sort of not breathing to the shakes to the coughs. It's an endless list, really. Not being able to walk properly. So now I walk, I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, I walk like a 90-year-old. I can only walk for 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes I can do 200 metres. So that tells you the sort of speed I travel at. And after that, my legs don't go any further. And I don't know why. And nobody knows why. So it's just, that's how it's affected me. Most of my other symptoms disappeared, but the walking is still there. And my arm sometimes doesn't work. I have shakes. So on the physical side, it's been a total shock, from walking 50 miles plus a week to being able to walk less than 200 metres a day is just life-changing. Well, it's the elephant in the room, the loneliness. I've got a supportive family, I've got a supportive friends network, but nobody seems to understand, and you can't blame them that they don't understand, because this is new, but nobody understands what I'm going through. It feels like it's all in your head sometimes, because your symptoms don't add up. One day my legs work, the next day they don't. Some days I shake, some days I don't. Things evolve, seem to evolve every day, new symptoms. So mentally it's difficult because of the loneliness. It's difficult to explain, really, but being alone, even though you're not, I know my family love me and my friends love me. I just feel that they don't understand, and it's my lonely fight. So it's me who's got to fight. You know, when I go to the hospital or the doctors and they do a test and they say, no, everything's fine. Right, okay, so there's nothing wrong there. So the mental side is, you could easily think I'm making this all up, but my body tells me I'm not. You know, I can't do things, and it's, you know, very annoying, frustrating, boring. But mentally, if I wasn't so positive, I can understand how people could take a turn for the worst. And it's because you feel alone, you know. And I think the best thing I had was I did some chats with other like-minded people, and that's helped me in lots of ways. It also annoyed me because they were fitter and better than me, but at least you got a view of other people's problems, and you could tick off, oh yeah, I have that, and yeah, I've had that problem, rather than thinking I'm the only person suffering with this, which is how it comes across. Right, loneliness to me. I realise that lots of people are lonely for different reasons. Obviously, some old people have no family, have no friends, but to me, this is a different sort of loneliness, because I have all that network, which maybe makes loneliness seem a strange word, because the network's there to help me. But they don't understand, or I feel they don't understand what I'm doing. My nightmare, if you know what I mean, and how I've lost all the fun things. So all the things I enjoyed doing, simple things like walking the dog, I can't do that anymore. And I feel like I'm stuck at home. So like today, I'm home alone. My son's here, he's going to work in a minute. But it's a lonely life. I don't want to sit and watch the telly for 20 hours a day. I don't want to be on the internet. But doing things tires me out. So if I read a book for 30 minutes, I'm exhausted because my brain. So it's what do you do to fill the time? And it turns into a lonely day. And when I come home, that's not when I come home, when my family comes home, I'm bombarding them with questions about their day, but I have nothing to offer. So the old question of, oh, how was your day? Normally, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. For me, it's nothing's happened. And that's a lonely way to live. I know people adapt to it, but it's very difficult when you've been active, outgoing, doing everything you want to do, never stopping for breath sort of thing. And now it's, well, 20 odd months of nothing. Yeah, I'm still here, I'm still alive. I'm not kicking anymore, obviously, but it's a lonely battle. And people, I think anybody who's got like debilitating long COVID, I think they'll probably resonate a bit more with that because it is difficult. I hope this is going to work. I really do. And I hope that I've helped. And like I say, if any old bloke who's 50 years old with a family can't explain to their wife how it is, I hope that somebody could watch this and say, oh, you know what, that's how I feel. That's the feelings I've got, but I can't tell. Because it's difficult to tell your family sometimes that you're scared, you're lonely, that you've got problems, that something's happened, and it's difficult. And that's why I think sometimes the support network of other people helps rather than your friends and family, because I don't want to tell my wife things, but I have to, you know. And sometimes it's a difficult conversation. The loneliness is a difficult conversation because she doesn't like the idea of me being lonely. But it's a conversation that I've had, and it did take me 16, 17 months to say that. So hence why I wanted to talk to you about loneliness, because, you know, everybody knows that you get a cough, everybody knows you struggle with breathing, you have chest pains, you have shakes, you have 100 symptoms, but nowhere in there is that you're lonely. I think support is the biggest thing. And I think that's not just for me, I think that's for my family as well. It's different now, but I got took into hospital and said goodbye to my family at the doorstep because they couldn't come to hospital and they didn't know what was going on. So that has changed a bit. But as we've gone on, luckily I had some support after. It took 14 months, well, a year, just over a year to get some support. But my treatment was not the greatest. GPs didn't understand, they had no education. If you went online to look at anything, you were going to die. So Dr. Google was not the answer. And I think hopefully what you're doing is going to help people understand that they're not alone, because I thought for ages that I was the only one suffering with this and this, and my symptoms were different to everybody else. And the support was not consistent, really. I mean, it got to the stage, the first 2 times I rung my GP, they asked me loads of questions because they wanted to understand. I never spoke to another GP again for 6 months because every time I rung, the secretary said, oh, you don't need an appointment, you need a sick note. And that was what I got. So support-wise, there was nothing there. I got referred to long COVID clinics that didn't exist. I had that twice. So yeah, the support was shocking, probably an underestimation. But I think things are changing now. In my experience, it's just I hope people get some early care to make it easier for them. because in the first couple of months is the tricky time, because that's when the negative thoughts are there, if you like, and there are people who have issues, other health issues. That's when it's going to hurt them, because they don't understand. And so I think the first 3 months is critical. And if I had my time again and said what needs to be different, it would be that first initial, after you've been ill for say 4, 5, 6 weeks, right, this is what's happening to you, this is what may happen, this is the support network that is now there, use it, you know. And I think that would be massive. And if I had my time again, that's all I would ask, is that somebody had said to me after I'd come out of hospital, right, Karl, you might get better in a week, but this may happen, and if you have these symptoms, don't panic, you know, they are quite normal. There's Lindsay, a lady called Lindsay Woodman's been a great help to me, and it was really strange because she's got me doing things that I'm a bloke, I wouldn't do. So I do lots of lots of, if you like, weird exercises and breathing. And also the thing with that is it got me into a group of people suffering the same. Yeah, and I realised then that everybody had different levels of ailment of it, but it actually got me sort of understanding what was going on in my body and talking to other people. And that can never be underestimated with this, I don't think, because it sort of got rid of my loneliness a bit, because it was sort of like, oh right, oh yeah, they've got this, this and this, you know, I've got that, and you sort of resonated with other people's afflictions, their issues, and sort of, oh yeah, you know. So that was massive for me, because I'd gone 14 months without speaking to anybody or knowing anything apart from doing online research, which wasn't great, to actually speaking to people and seeing human beings and sort of getting a little bit of knowledge. So yeah, that was an amazing help, to be honest. And since then I've spoke to some other people when I've been at like hospitals and doing medical research, and that's the key for me, is speaking to others with similar issues, because that's the loneliness. It just, you know, yeah, it's still there today, I'm still going to be lonely, but I sort of understand it a little bit more now, and I understand other people, and other people are out there and they have got the same problems. Yeah, they might be a little bit better or a little bit worse, but you know, there is people, you're not lonely, or you're not alone, probably that should say. So yeah, that's she's probably the lady, obviously my wife and the children, but she's the lady who sort of got me thinking a little bit outside the box from a normal bloke's point of view, very strangely. Probably my GP. It's been a waste of time, really. I ring the GP and it's basically the secretary now says, oh, you just need a sick note. So they don't ring you back. I even rung the GP once to say that I'd been in hospital, because I got rushed into hospital over the weekend, and I rung the GP to say, you know, I've had food problems and this, that and the other, and the secretary actually said the GP doesn't want to speak to you anymore. You've been off for long enough now, you should be able to go back to work, so they're giving you a back to work note. And I was ringing to say that I'd collapsed and I was going in hospital, so that sort of gives you a feeling of how annoyed's probably not a strong enough word, with my GP. And now all of a sudden Lindsay's got involved, and I needed some help with something, and now my GP wants me to have every test in the world, but I've already had every test, you know what I mean, from other people. So yeah, they've not been great. And I understand that at the start they didn't know what they was doing, and the first 2 times they spoke to me they were learning, but it wouldn't have took 30 seconds for them to actually speak to me on the phone to say, how's things going? But I didn't get that, and I go, what? And I went to the doctor's last month because Lindsay had got me in, but before then, the last time I spoke to the doctor was November last year. So you think that's 8 months, and during that time, obviously, a lot had changed in my life. So yeah, not the greatest, but in their defence, I suppose, you expect your GP to know everything, and they didn't. But sometimes a little bit of empathy wouldn't have hurt. From November 2020, when I was first took ill, I had a doctor's appointment face-to-face November 2020, so a year later was my first face-to-face with the doctor. And then in July, so I've had 2 face-to-face with the doctor in 20 months. So that's my level of care, if you know what I mean. And that's it. So for the first year, I never saw a doctor unless I went into hospital. I just got sick note sent. I never had any help, any support, any care or anything. And then I got referred to, I think it was in the October of my COVID recovery online, which was like an exercise plan, which I couldn't even do phase 1, level 1. So then I got referred to them by Lindsay, by them to Lindsay, and at the same time, my GP referred me to the ME clinic as well, because they didn't know what was wrong with me. But for a year, I had nothing apart from my thoughts and my worries and Dr. Google and what people were saying and looking at me. I had people come around the house, my friends, when I was poorly, and wouldn't come in because they saw me and was like, oh my God, because I looked so poorly. They wouldn't come in because they were scared to come in case anything happened. And then they would obviously speak to my wife. I'd work colleagues and was going, oh yeah, go round and see him. They'd come to the door and they'd be like, you could see it in their face, like, oh, I've just popped in to see if you're all right, I can't stop. But it wasn't once or twice, it was like conveyor belt of it. So yes. I think it's a difficult thing really, because it is new. They are learning and they're general practitioners, so they don't specialise. But I think from any doctor's practice, if I had one wish from a doctor's practice, if they had people with long COVID, to actually set up a group. It can be on Zoom, it could be in the surgery, and it's just to have people in there to talk about what's going on. And maybe in a dream, the doctor to actually sit in and listen and think, you know what, I never knew that. I can learn from that. I can learn from that. He's gone for acupuncture, that's worked. He's had physiotherapy. He's had a lung test. You know, he's had an ECG, and actually listen to what's worked for people for different symptoms, rather than, oh right, well we don't really know, so let's try this. You know, I had a steroid trial, which turned me into a zombie. But it was a guess, and at the time I didn't mind because it was a trial. But I think the only way GPs will learn is by, if you like, a pyramid, reversing the situation where for once the answers are not in medicine, they're in actually listening to the patient properly, rather than getting a secretary to say, oh yeah, just wants a sick note. Not the fact that something different may have happened or a new symptom has come up. You know, no, the secretary will send you a sick note. So that would be my thought. Yeah, well, I work for a multinational company, Royal Mail. It's difficult to say really. I've been finished recently. I was led to believe that I was being finished on certain terms, and then they changed the terms and conditions after everything had been done. It's been very poor. I've had no help, no understanding, and I know my bosses don't understand it and don't get it, but I was a manager for 20 years, and I made an effort, however ill somebody was. If they had cancer and was going to die, I'd run them every week. I'd go and see them. I've not seen any manager in 20 months. My phone calls, initially I had a couple at start. I couldn't take them because I wasn't well enough, so my wife took them. And then it would go 3 months without anybody contacting me. In fact, I've not sent a sick note in for over a year. They're all just sat in a pile. I don't even bother sending them in because they can't be bothered to ring me. I don't bother, you know, so they're all sat there. But I've been finished now, so that's going to appeal because of the terms. But yeah, ignorance is not always the best thing. And I know it's difficult for them to ring me and talk to me, but you know, I don't know how other employees are, but Royal Mail have not come out of it with a good thing, really. And I think I initially caught COVID at work as well, which has made it even worse. But yeah, there's not been any empathy from my employer. That they should try and meet like-minded people as soon as possible. They get into some sort of group, not necessarily internet one, you know, but try and contact their their doctor and say like, what's available, what long COVID groups can I speak to, or even can I speak to somebody with long COVID, you know, somebody who's further down the road than me, just so you can, if you like, not swap ideas, that's the wrong word, but actually speak to somebody who goes, oh yeah, I've had that, yeah, don't worry about that, yeah, I've had this, don't worry about that, oh, you need to go for a lung function test for that, or you need to have an inhaler for that, or, do you know what I mean? Just, if somebody was further down the line, I mean, I know I'm quite a long way down the line now, but if somebody was 6-8 weeks and they were starting to have issues, you'd just be able to speak to somebody, and that's what I'd say to them. Try and find somebody who is going through the same thing as you, but is a bit further along, because they might be able to point you to somewhere that can help you. I mean, there's lots of different things you can do, but sometimes you just ring your GP and they're just saying, oh no, that's fine, no, you'll be fine, that's fine. And maybe this time the GPs haven't got the answers. Maybe it will come from people who are a little bit further down the line.
And a bit similar, but
you take the week off work before. I don't know. I don't know if I could really, because I don't think I could have preempted how bad this has been, and that's probably a negative opinion. But you don't think that catching COVID is going to be. I mean, I know people died, so there's a lot of people worse off, and there's still a lot of people worse off than me, and I know that. But I don't think I could have given myself any advice, because I don't know. I didn't realise then, and I still don't realise now probably how bad it is, you know, on the bad days. So I think that's an impossible question, to be honest. Apart from take the week off work before you get COVID, so you don't get it. But yeah, there's nothing. I would say you've got to learn to adapt. You've got to change. We've all got to change as we get older anyway. And it's a forced change that, yeah, we didn't want to do till we was a bit older maybe. But we're still alive. Many aren't. And we've still got a life, however that is. And adapt your life and keep learning. You know, ask for help and don't give up.